announcement. Chris is apparently getting older, which is always a good thing. You know, so.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay, we'll start off as usual with our public comment section. Do we have any written public comments, anything email or something like that?
Nothing.
Byron, did you have any comment?
Yeah, actually, I just happy birthday, Chris, for one public comment. But I was attended I Zoom attended the last city council workshop, and Chris presented the issue about the salmon pens, and the numbers that Chris presented were a little bit nebulous, and I wanted to see if we could maybe have Chris provide us at some time with some more accurate accounting of the expenses, the donations, the grants and so forth. And because what I'm assuming is that everything that's not going to be covered by donations and grants is probably going to be tagged onto our responsibility from the enterprise fund. And maybe that's not true, but I'm kind of expecting the worst. And so I just thought I'd ask and see if Chris can give us some better numbers either tonight or sometime in the future on that.
I don't have the actual numbers with me at my house right here. I do have all the invoices and I do have the grants. And I can certainly provide that at the December meeting, but ballpark figure, we're probably about somewhere $3,000 to $4,000 short right now. So of the grants minus what we spent so far, but I can give you that exact information next meeting, or you can stop.
Okay. And can you provide us with any kind of projection as to what the ongoing operational costs are going to be, what we pay for food and feeding the fish and repairs and that kind of stuff? Because by my back of the envelope calculations, those could tend to mount up over time.
Yeah, I can definitely do that.
Thanks.
Yeah, Chris, let me suggest that, if you can just put together a kind of a summary of the costs and donations and grants and that sort of thing, and the estimated expenses, and just email it out to the committee and Byron. That way we, have some more timely information. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Any other public comment? I didn't look to see if there was anybody else on the list here. I see David's here and Blaine and so forth.
Can we get one more clarification? Are we assuming that the time spent by our Marina employees to service the fish pens is going to be something over and above their normal duties that will be charged in addition to their hourly rate? You know what I mean? Or are they going to be off the time that we're already paying them for to service the pens? And is there going to be another bill to the Marina for their time to feed the fish and do all that stuff?
No, it's just part of their daily routine.
Okay. Yeah.
No,
that's kind of what I anticipated, but you made
Yeah.
it sound like there might be something else.
No, just daily routine. So.
Okay.
Chris, are there going to be any volunteers involved in the feeding, the regular feeding? They have to be fed, twice a day or something?
Yeah, initially it's once a day. Then at the end, it's like twice a day. We're really hoping that once Oak Harbor School District lifts their field trip COVID ban right now, that we'll get a lot of the schools down there and they'll help feed them and stuff like that. So. But on a regular basis, I'd say it's just be Marina staff, from day to day, that the groups would be once a week or even less than that during the duration they're here.
It sounds like there might be a possibility for an Eagle Scout project or something to take care of a little of it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's good. I have a
But-
connection with the Boy Scouts. My dentist is heavily involved in those, so I could ask him about that.
It's a good
Yeah.
idea. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, never mind. I had, no, my question's been answered, I think.
Okay. We have, next on the agenda is the review of the minutes from the last meeting. That's our September 13th. No, I'm sorry. No, that's the October 4th meeting. Do we have any corrections or additions or anything to those minutes?
I move that we accept the minutes as submitted.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, been moved and seconded to approve the minutes as submitted. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Okay, that passes. The next item is sort of an update on the Marina dredge bond rate increase and the possibilities and so forth there. And I'd like to look at that in two different scenarios. One scenario would be the refinance of the prior bond, which, you know, that's fairly definite. We know what the schedule is and all that sort of thing. And then if we wanted to, we could add to that a conversation about the future, which, you know, there's a lot more speculation there about what that might entail and so forth. But Chris, do you want to start off the discussion on the bonds, or is Mr. Goldman going to handle that?
I can talk about the bonds a little bit and some of the information in the packet as far as any technical detailed finance questions. Dave would have to answer those. So we've talked about the bond and how we're going to repay the bond. And as we look at things, we know that the dredge fee is going to go up, and Dave gave us some numbers to work off of. If you scroll through your package to the multicolored page, mortgage rates comparison, what we tried to do here, and I just don't know any other way to set our rates other than to compare them to another marina at this point. If you look at this multicolored page, if you scroll down, it says proposed 2022 rates with a $1.31 dredge fee plus 3% increase to Oak Harbor marina rates and surrounding marina rates. So what we tried to capture here, if we use a step approach to raise our dredge fee to pay off the current bond, and we go to 131, 160, 188, and 216, what does it look like? Knowing that we want to be somewhere around 80% of our competition, and maybe we're not going to be able to do that anymore. Maybe it's 90%. I don't know. But this top one with the $1.31, it shows the Oak Harbor Marina in green. It shows the average of the other marinas, and it shows the difference. And what we did was we increased the dredge rate to 131. And then also, oh, somebody's sharing that. Thank you. I could have shared it. We also added a 3% increase on April 1st. We have a 3% increase as well. But knowing that the other marinas are raising, that they typically raise their rates 3% as well, we incorporated that increase in here too. So having said that, when you look at using the $1.31 again, you can see that the average includes a 3% increase. And looking at the first column, the 24-foot column, with the 3% increase and 3% for Oak Harbor, with the dredge fee, we're at 90.4%. Now that's not a very good model, that one specifically there, because that's where we have the small boat contract, right? So you kind of have to average that out over the year. But if you go to the right, even to the 24s and so on, or 28s, it paints a really nice picture. And you can see that with our moving our dredge fee to $1.31, increasing our rates by 3% on top of that, and increasing the competitors' rates by 3%, we'd be at 93.5% of that average, hypothetically. And you can look across this table and see the amount that the new rate would be with the $1.31 and the 3% and where it relates to the other marinas. And then scrolling down, we use that same formula for $1.60, $1.88, and then in year 4, getting to $2.16. So we're trying to paint the picture here of what would our rates look like with the dredge fee increase that we've talked about, the stepped approach, plus 3% compared to the other marinas increasing their mortgage 3% each year as well. I think it's Cap Sante, and I'm almost positive they raise theirs at least 3% every year, and so do most marinas at this point. Some are even more, as we can see in the bigger boat categories. So does that make sense to everybody? Okay.
It makes sense, but it's I'll be the one that stands up and says it's just too much. We're adding, at worst case is we're adding another more than $1 per foot to the dredge fee. Then we're adding an additional 3% over 4 years.
Right.
Which is, and we still come back to, and I'll say this until you throw me off the Marine Advisory Committee, there is no way we can compare the Oak Harbor Marina to Cap Sante. There's no way we can compare it to LaConner. There's no way we compare it to Everett. They're just not the same. It's not apples to apples. It is clearly 2 different animals. You know what? If we get to the point, I've been in the Marina 21 years. Probably Byron's the only person who's been in the Marina longer than I have. But if we go to 216 plus 3% for the next 4 years, I'll move my boat to Cap Sante. I will. I absolutely will, because I'm going to be paying a lot of money for and it's not your fault and it's not the city's fault. We just don't have the marina amenities. We don't even have a food truck. We don't have a convenience store. We don't have anything. No shoreside activities. And without shoreside activities, you can't compare Oak Harbor Marina to Cap Sante or any of the other marinas that we've chosen to compare it to. That is going to be my position. And it just doesn't make sense. I think until we can find a way. And then we're going to talk about dredging again. And we're going to talk about, again, raising a much bigger dredge fee without any way to do this other than on the backs of the marina tenants. And that is an issue.
Well, let's jump into that a little bit. As you guys are aware, last week we made a presentation to the city council about dredging. And I want to say we planted the seed for asking them for money. I did it and Ken did it too. And Ken even took it a step farther and it's like, well, we should just do a whole marina. But I do have to tell you that there was some positive feedback from the council. Now that doesn't put any money in the bank account at this point, but it's a starting point. So we'll see what happens there. I am open to setting rates and working on this, and trying to figure it out, but we can't just pull the rates out of the sky. We have to compare it to something. We have to have some measurable thing, and I'm not sure what that measurable thing is if we're not going to compare to other marinas. And then one thing you mentioned was food truck and convenience stores. We tried both those, and it just wasn't supported by our marina tenants, and it's kind of weird. Everybody was, let's do it. And then, we had that one Mexican catering truck, and that was pretty good. And we had Orlando's there, which is a huge restaurant, and our tenants just wouldn't support it. And that was weird. That was really weird. And then Brian and Dee's store, that had some nice stuff in there, and no one would support that either. So I don't know what to do about that sort of thing. I can't make people buy things at the marina, So I
Well,
think we've tried that.
Yeah,
It's just the
I think
problem,
we're
it's
all in
just the problem
agreement
of where the
that,
marina is. It's, and we've done this, we've argued this for for so long, is that where we are, if the marina was 1,500 feet away from where it is right now, it would be a different issue.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's where it is. And, and I think every mayor has thought about this for some time, but yet it require, and it goes back to the point, and I just don't want to sound like a broken record, but we provide, the marina tenants provide everything for what is effectively a city park. We get nothing. We pay the freight for all of it.
Sure.
And how do we continue to, and we're going to make it more expensive to pay the freight for, so people can go out and fish and enjoy all that stuff that makes it great without any help from the city. And that is not right.
I did flat out say in my presentation that, we've been an enterprise fund since the beginning. And we've been in that enterprise fund box. But now we need to get out of that box. This is not sustainable. And I don't know what the options are, but we'll see. And maybe David can kind of chime in on that, being an
Yeah.
enterprise fund and what the options may be.
The enterprise fund is something that the state auditor requires us to put the marina in. It's basically any business type activity that generates the majority of their funding
Mhm.
from ratepayers. It doesn't mean like every single dime has to come from ratepayers, but because the majority of the funding for the marina comes from ratepayers, it has to be designated as a proprietary funds or enterprise funds. Those are kind of interchangeable per GASB. I think Blaine has his finger up.
Yeah, so David's on the right track, but just because you're an enterprise fund doesn't keep the city from subsidizing or providing. And we've mentioned before to you, you've got grant funding. That same day of the council meeting, I was at the Council of Governments, and Legislator Dave Paul was there, and Gilday was there, and then the two senators, U.S. senators, and Larson's representative. And I plugged the marinas and told them that we're looking for $5 million, and it'd be nice if we can get a big chunk of that from grant funding. So if we're going to get big money, it's going to come from the feds and the state. They're going through the biannual budget process right now. We've got $400,000 before through Dave Paul's office through the budget. Not the last cycle, but the cycle before that. We're still spending that one. So certainly we can lobby for that. I don't think the council's opposed to that, and look for some grant funding in there to help. And I think you're right. The park aspect of it is a justification for having some subsidy from the city. So we just talked about the concerns with the ratepayers and the issue of the salmon rearing, and certainly that's a park activity, and you can justify that. You've got cattle in the park right there. You can justify that. So we had a possibility of getting more of a beach possibility, but unfortunately with that one grant funding, but the council didn't want to make the Catalina Park into a beach, and that would have been some plus because you would have got some grant funding to help with other things that are like the dock that are more related. We did add the dock fee to do that. We could do parking fees. And then the other thing that Chris didn't talk about on the rate here is certainly, I think, keeping it maybe at the 80%, but we're at lower percentage for the larger boats. And so there is some room on possibly the city looking at the comparables for the 3% and maybe only raising the smaller boats by 1% and raising the other ones to be more comparable to other marinas. And if we can configure better for larger boats, that's certainly a source of revenue. That's another challenge. But there's a lot here, and I think on the city side of the city administrator, I'll continue to lobby for grant funding. We have the boatyard purchase. It's primarily 90%, 80, 90, 10, Chris, of the grant on that one. That we're trying to do grant funding. So, and unfortunately, we didn't get a lot of money out of the one grant for the shoreline, but we do have the $400,000. It's all grant money that we're spending right now as part of the upgrading, and so that helps subsidize the marina.
So what do the other committee members think?
Well, obviously it's a complicated subject and so forth, and and you know, I think everybody's on board with JJ's comments about it's difficult to have comparables. All we're doing is looking at the realities of the I call them neighboring marinas. They're not all neighbors, you know, like Des Moines, but that's just kind of an interesting one to look at. But that's the whole genesis for the 80% kind of rule of thumb, was that we know we can't offer all those amenities, so we can't price at 100% of what the competition's doing. And for, I don't know, as long as I can remember, we've been using kind of the ballpark of 80%. And there have been some differences, kind of inequities, if you want to call it that, in the larger boats. And we've attempted over the last few years to make some adjustments to those kinds of things to make them more in concert with the 80% type of rule. But yeah, we know we can't pick up and drag the marina someplace else, at least very far. And that, you know, we kind of have what we have. So the question becomes, you know, what do we do with it? Now, the mental process that I went through in looking at the existing dredging is, we're still, I don't know, David, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we're saving at least $200,000 over the life of the bonds that were refinanced. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, let me just do the math here. It's on your agenda too. It's $261,000.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the primary reason we did it, was to take advantage of current low market rates and to amortize it over a shorter period of time to reduce our interest costs. So, as you know, kind of phase one in our discussion is, what do we do with the obligation we have? And then if we still have energy or imaginations, we can talk about the longer term future, you know, like 5 years out or something. But we don't, as I recall correctly, you know, typically, you know, for something like dredging fees, you know, there really is no schedule for when we review those, but there is a schedule for when we review the standard increases in April and so forth. So I don't know if we want to divide those two and look at them separately. We do have a little bit of an advantage in this calendar year because what we budgeted for debt service and so forth, you know, we're actually getting a couple months of a little bit of discount, if you want to qualify it that way. So because we have a lower rate and so forth. So we've kind of kicked the can down the road until the first of next year in terms of what we have to do with the dredging fees, because there is money on hand for current debt service. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Ken, I think I might be, maybe we should just move this along, and I think all of us, and I don't want to speak for everybody, so if I'm mischaracterizing this, I think we would all agree that a stepped approach to going from $1.03 to $2.16 is probably the way to go. If I'm misstating that, please chime in. But I think we can probably agree to that, and that's something that we should recommend that we do. But the next issue is, what do we actually ask for? And Ken, you and I have had this discussion offline about I don't even know what the ask is yet, and I don't know how to quantify what the ask is. But we can probably, if we meet more frequently, we can probably figure out what the ask is with some help from Blaine about what would actually work. You know, I think we need, at worst case, we need to get some parks and rec money because it's a park. It's effectively a park. And then maybe the ask is that we ask the city to find a way to get the dredging done. Find a commercial reason why we can get the subsequent dredging done. And maybe that's a good ask. So, you know, I'd ask Curtis and Steve and Ryan how they feel about that, because I know it's tough to figure out what we can realistically ask the city for. I think what I would ask the city for is to reduce our indirect allocation cost to something under, you know, $215,000, and maybe get it back to a more rational number if that is possible within the law or within the regulations. So what do you guys think?
JJ, I usually don't agree with you, but this time I have totally agreed with what you're saying, except for one item. And that is, we still have a waiting list for all these slips, do we not? So that tells you there's still a lot of demand. As much as I don't want prices to go up, there's still a lot of demand. It doesn't really solve the long run though.
So,
Well, the long run is I mean, the big picture, the long haul, if you will, is we have $1 million plus or minus a few bucks in the enterprise fund. We continue to pay the city 20% of that. You know, well, we did pay the city 20%, Blaine. It was over $200,000.
It's around 5, David, what is it?
Uh, let me pull that up.
It's
Okay,
around
well,
5 to 6.
that notwithstanding, I mean, we
9% for 2020. It was
So-
7.7 in 2017, 5.2 in 2018, and then 5.5 in 2019. And it looks at not just Fund 410, but also looks at the capital project fund as well. So one of the reasons why it went up in 2020 is because there was a large amount of capital projects that were budgeted in 2020. That's one of the driving factors in this.
So when we do this large dredge project, it'll go up again and
Yeah, when the dredge project comes through in the future, but for 2021, the capital projects is a lot less than it was. So in all likelihood, that amount will probably go down, you know, the indirect allocation costs, but we're not going to know until we just do the end of year true ups for all the funds and just stick everything into the model and see what it pops out.
David, I heard the percentage that you mentioned, but can you estimate a total dollar amount for us?
For 2021, I can't
Yes.
estimate it until we end up doing, because it's not just the Marina Fund on its own. It's like every fund in the city. And we have to wait until we get the actuals that come in order to put everything in the model. So it's hard to estimate until we actually have the data to put into the model. And we don't usually get the final data until March of 2020.
Wasn't there an estimate in the 2021 budget?
yeah, I put in like 160, I think, as I recall, 170.
Well, actually, the way that I heard that they do the budget for the indirect cost allocations citywide is they look at the latest year that's available and they use that figure for the 2 years of the biennial. So the most recent year that they would have had available when they put the budget together in like August and September of 2020 would have been the true up from the previous year, which was the 2019 true up. So they use that number, not just for Marina, but for all the departments, and they stuck that number into the budget for 21 and 22.
And I don't want to just rehash the obvious, but we are the only ones that are paying that. The 320 some odd Marina tenants are the one that's paying every dime of that. So that makes it a little bit different than everybody else.
How so? Because I think the utility funds also have to pay the indirect cost allocation, and people throughout the city pay their utility bills in water, wastewater, solid waste, and stormwater, or storm drain, we call it here.
Of course, we've heard presentations before about how the cost allocation process works and so forth, and it's it's complicated and bound by law and all that sort of thing. But I think maybe a more simplistic approach would be to provide some sort of subsidy from whatever sources that would cover a certain percentage, a negotiated percentage of the marina operating budget, like 20% or something, some number that is substantial enough to so that the city proper has some buy-in and some interest in the marina. We don't necessarily need another entity, like Parks or somebody like that, to chime in and tell us how to spend the money. I think the operation speaks for itself, that it's operated very well for 50 years under the enterprise formula. And even if we were getting subsidy from some other source, we would continue to be good stewards of those funds and continue to operate in a prudent manner. So rather than get into the minutia of the cost allocations, if we were to approach it from some sort of percent of operations, that might be an easier way to go. But again, I don't know what's possible, but just looking at it from the 30,000 foot level, it just makes more sense to do that, as long as whatever that number is, say it was $1.2 million or something like that, that doesn't become our indirect cost allocation in the following year.
One thing, Ken, and I'll just throw this out there. When we negotiated, and I want to hear from Ryan too. I think he's got some thoughts. When we negotiated the DNR contract, we figured out the percentage of the marina that was open to the public, and that reduced our DNR contract. And maybe that, just thinking out of the box, maybe that's something we can look at in the future too, Second thought is, in just throwing this out there, because as I said at the city council meeting, everything is on the table. What if we did lobby to create a parks and recreation department, and we were part of that? And, I don't know what that would look like financially or whatever, but that certainly throws a city mix into it. I just don't know. I mean, everything is on the table in my mind as far as moving forward. So just throwing those out there for thought, not necessarily for discussion. But I know Ryan started to say something, so.
Oh, sorry about that. I had to unmute real quick. So the closest alligator right now to the boat is we have to pay the current dredge fee off, right? We've talked about that. I agree with JJ. It should be kind of a stepped approach. If you just dump it all on at once, that's a lot. One of the things we talked about is really the like, if we do the dredge fee, is the rate increase the just regular rate increase, is it necessary? Could we forego that for a little bit until we figure out this dredge? Because really, by saying, hey, we want to pay the dredge off sooner so that we can have another dredge fee following right along behind it, along with the rate increases, boy, we're really like it's really on the backs of the tenants way more. And I get it. There's a waiting list, right? A lot of people are buying boats. I was talking to somebody that does the American tugs, and they said there's like if you buy an American tug now, you get it in about 1.5 years because they're so far backed up. And so they're looking for places just to store their boat. And so that's why there's a waiting list. But really, given the choice of, can they put their boat in Cap Sandy or Everett or someplace like that, I believe that they would move it. So they're just looking anywhere for a place to park their boat, I believe. Not that this is a destination marina, but it could be. JJ's right. We don't have the amenities. And you're right. You can't make people, if you put a food truck and stuff out there, you can't make people go spend their money. So it's kind of like, you just have to realize that it's not the same amenities regardless of what we do, just because of our location. So is that rate increase necessary? Can we try to stay more at 80? And I said, well, earlier you said, well, maybe it'll be 90%, or, if maybe we can't do that 80%, but boy, the closer you get to the other marinas, the more palatable it is to go to one of those other marinas, or at least get on their waiting list.
Sure. No, it's good comments.
Chris, can you tell us what the waiting
And-
list is for
and-
60 foot?
One more thing about the Parks District. So somebody made a comment, yeah, hey, if the Parks District is here, we don't need them telling us how to spend our money. And so the enterprise fund works because we're kind of the masters of our own domain, but we still have a harbor master, right? We still have Chris. So it doesn't, if we were part of the Parks District, like, it still has to go through the harbor master. So I don't necessarily know that they would have much more say than what we have right now, other than we'd just be incorporated in with them.
It would get a little dicey with the money type deal, I think. Is that right, Dave and Blaine?
I think the issue of going into a park district it'd be similar to being a port, is you're getting some tax dollars in, and that's the benefit there. And I think the idea of recognizing the parks percentage of the marina is probably a good way to justify some subsidy on that. So if you went into it, right now, we're working on a referendum for the public safety. We could have put, some cities put park with it. We'll probably do it separate. We'll probably do some kind of cooperative mess if we get that. But I'm going to tell you what I tell all my other departments when they're asking for more money. If we don't grow the pie, then who do you want me to cut? And that's my point. But if you grow the pie, then it creates a win-win. So certainly the way to do this is when we're talking about the parks and doing a possible referendum to the voters for an increase. We can certainly talk about senior services and regional park and including Marina in there. It's certainly a possibility. The wider you do the net, the more you get voters that are in favor of it. So we're not right in that position right now, but that certainly after we get done with the public safety, we'll be looking at park funding, and I'll be talking with the park district, North Whidbey Park District, and doing some kind of cooperation with them. In the short term, we just I think we got a budget revision going in. David, it's $40,000 subsidy from ARPA.
The cameras,
Yeah,
50.
it's a little bit more. It's about 50. I have the exact number somewhere.
yeah, we're actually
49,000.
49,000. So we did get we tried to spread the wealth of ARPA funding to each department. And so I did include in there a recommendation to retroactively pay for the cameras for the marina with ARPA funding. So that is a small subsidy, but that helps. That doesn't have to come out of the rates, and that'll help the fund balance with that $50,000.
When I was doing the true up for this indirect cost allocation, remember I saw the increase of some of these funds, and I was trying to work with the state auditor to come up with an alternate way to, mitigate the impact. So I talked to the local office in Bellingham, and I told them that, I worked in Florida for 20 years, and we used to do the same kind of thing. We use 5-year smoothing, and they seemed to be on board with it, but they told me to call their headquarters in Olympia. And after I talked to Olympia about doing that, and they're like, no, per the state auditor guidelines, you must show, you must follow the model, and you must do, the full amount for each year. You can't do smoothing. And it just seemed unnecessarily bureaucratic. But anyway, so I did make an effort. I also tried to find some other driving factors from other cities for different things, but it all seemed to be about the same driving factors we currently use now.
Yeah, and you did pull out some projects that weren't going to minimize the capital.
1.25 million shading project. I pulled that out because it was canceled, but it was approved in the original budget, and that would have increased it even more. We're able to pull that out because it was officially canceled. So I did save some money off of that.
Hey,
Yeah.
Blaine, can you pay for the marina reservation software as well? It's seen as you're being generous about the cameras. I know Chris wants to get the marina software up to date, and I think it was 20K, wasn't it, Chris, 20K?
Yeah, it's about
Boy,
20,000.
that, you should be able to find a pot of money for that somewhere in the city.
Well, we have the 5.5 or $6.5 million ARPA funding that we're in the process of spending, and that's where the 40,000 or for almost 50,000. Chris could put that on the list. I think you had a few other items on the list. You can continue to, I can't remember the other items that he had on the list, but he can continue to push and see if, as we spend that ARPA money, and that's
It's on the list already. It's here. It's just that the subcommittee didn't choose it.
Yeah. And that's just first pass at the list, right? They'll be making other passes
Oh,
at it.
yeah. The next round, they're going to be looking at some kind of hard capital projects, like water and wastewater projects, because there's that category in the American Rescue Plan guidelines that's specifically for that. So they're going to be looking at that. And there was a lot of input at the last council workshop about trying to use that purple pipe, trying to help defray some of the cost of our water by using the reused water. But that won't, that'll be the next major round, but we're going to be doing plenty of other rounds. We'll have a new council on board, at least 2 new members of council on board, and I'm sure they'll have their inputs and stuff. So, we're going to continue with that committee.
And just so you guys know, I put a couple projects in there, I think about $150,000 all the way down to $5,000 things. And we were able to get to 50,000. So that's a good start. Yeah, good. So we haven't heard from Curtis on this rate increase in step thing yet.
Oh, in listening, what catches me is not just location, that the marina is not closer to some of the facilities in town, but it's perfect location for those of us that are here in this group because we live here. But it's got to be less expensive than other marinas for other reasons, like it's further from Seattle and it's further from Friday Harbor. So I think we have to be less expensive than some of those places. I think the dry storage may help. The comment about they're still making boats, but they're not making slips. Dry storage seems to be opening up some of that. I don't know how that's going to affect the supply and demand in Oak Harbor. Since the Canadian border's opening up, I was told that up at Point Roberts, only 30% of the marina was occupied because people couldn't get to their boats. As the border opens up, that may impact things. A lot of different aspects to what's going on.
Yeah, and in fact, Point Roberts either sold or is still for sale. I haven't checked on it in a while. That marina is. So it's kind of an interesting thing right there.
The
That's a
numbers that
private marina?
Yeah, it's owned by a Asian conglomerate, I believe. So
the numbers that you showed, the multicolored numbers for different slips, it certainly would indicate to me that the demand and the price for the larger slips, that's an area that if I were going to say we could bump them up, that's one of the places. And I guess depending on how it impacts subscription, the little ones, because we've got a group of slips that are in high demand and a group of slips that perhaps is overflow from other places.
yeah, and that would be our 28-foot category is kind of a catch-all. We'll put 24-foot boats in there and 30-foot boats in there because we don't fill that up this time of year. In the summer, we just put everything we can safely put in there size-wise. So
Where are we at on the waiting list for 50 and 60 foot?
for 50 and 60-foot boats, let me check the website real quick.
Maybe 40 open.
40 open, we've gone through our list. We don't currently have any regular slips available, but we've gone through the list and either the people don't want winter moorage or they're not ready for them yet. So at this point, we're we're almost saying that we don't have a wait list for them. The winter mortgage, we just have 1 or 2 slips available left.
How about in the 50s and 60s?
I'm getting there. So on the 50s covered, we have 7, 50 open, we have 20. And on the 60 to 70 open, we have 2 people on those lists.
So not real big.
Not for the 60 and 70 open, no. And the reason is for that is pretty simple. We don't have 50 amp power. So those 60 and 70 foot boats, once they learn that, they don't even usually want to get on our wait list. All we have is 30.
Yeah, before we get too far away from Ryan's question, Ryan asked about, the rate increases and what we might do with the 3%. And Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't we raise that issue right after the first of the year for implementation in April as to what we're going to do with the, it's not mandated that we have to do a particular rate increase. But we've committed ourselves to review that annually. Is that correct?
Kind of. So 3 years ago, we instituted a 4-year rate increase. So if we decided not to do that, we'd have to have the council reverse that decision. Right now, the council has approved a 3% rate increase effective October 1st. And this will be the last of the 4 years that were built into that 4-year 3% increase. 4 years ago, 3 years ago. So.
You said October 1st. Is that?
April 1st, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's still at least an opportunity, but we'd need to go to the council for that type of action. So.
Yeah. And if we were to take that 3% off, that really affects the operating budget because we're essentially taking 3% out of it.
Yeah. And
Well, maybe not.
But
Well, I was just gonna
it's
say,
not
maybe-
decreasing your budget. It's just not, it's not plussing up your budget.
Well, I think you have to weigh into the fact that everything else is going up around us at least 3%, parts, tools, all that junk. So we would be losing that 3%. And it's relatively, it's $50,000, but in our marina that we try and make that 50,000 into 75 the way we do things, So yeah, would hurt a little bit.
Well, true. But like I said, maybe not say, hey, we're just not going to do it at all, but maybe just forego it until we get the dredge paid off, because we're trying to do it earlier to save money. And
Right.
so, you know what I mean? I get if we said, hey, we're not going to do it, then we have to go back to the council. But what if we just delay it?
Well, any action other than what they've directed us to do would require council approval. So whether it's to decrease it, put it off, whatever, it would require approval.
Okay.
So.
And remember, we're talking about 2 different things here. We're talking about the paying off the dredge refinance bonds is pretty well scripted out. I mean, we know what those dollars and cents are going to be. The
Right.
operating budget is a different animal. So, and we segregated them just for that reason, so that we could see the relative impact of operations versus dredge fees and that sort of thing. So, what I'm hearing is that there is some consensus that for the first phase of the repayment of the dredge bonds, that we should be considering a $1.31 increase. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah,
It's not a $1.31 increase. It's increased to a $1.31.
that's
Because don't we pay $1.06 now, correct?
correct.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right.
Okay. So that's a big difference between you know what I mean, $1.31, increasing
Yeah.
it a dollar foot or increasing to $1.31.
All right, thank you for sharing. Yeah, it'd be $1.31 per foot. So how big is your boat, Ryan?
Oh, 34 feet.
So it'd go up to 44.54 in your example. It would go up $9 essentially for you per month.
Do you pay per the length of the boat or the length of the slip?
Pay for the
I-
length of the boat or the slip, whichever is larger.
Okay,
Right. So mine is a little bit larger, so I pay for the length of the boat.
gotcha.
Yeah, you're in a 32-foot slip, I believe. So
Yeah.
So yeah, you would go from 35 to 44 essentially.
Yeah. So for me, like I said, I'm a liveaboard, and it doesn't make that big of a difference, right? But there's other people that it will make a big difference, especially the ones with the bigger boats. I look at mine as we have fairly small boats, but you got to look at not just myself, but as all the marina tenants, and are we doing the best for them?
For JJ, and I think your slip, I'm just remembering JJ, your slip is 50 feet roughly. So you go from $51 to $65 per month, just as a rough estimate.
Yeah, the slip is actually, I think it's 55 feet long, which is fine.
Yeah. So that gives you a ballpark. But yeah, we are talking about two separate things. We're talking about this dredge fee. Do we want to use a stepped approach? To me, that lessens the pain, but we also have to consider that say for some reason we end up having to do a dredge. Well, we know we're going to have to do a dredge fee on the next dredge scenario, and say that dredge fee is, or say we spend $4 or $5 million, what's the dredge fee going to be then, right? So
Yeah. And that brings up a good point. So as we get closer now, as we're increasing the rates and increasing the dredge fee to that, like you were saying, maybe we go to 90% or so, and then all of a sudden you get that bigger dredge fee. Like you could definitely shoot over 100% fairly easy. You're getting pretty close.
yeah, that's a great point.
I think realistically, and I think we don't want to continue to beat this dead horse, that if we wind up having to pay a subsequent dredge fee, and that dredge fee and that dredge that we decide 3 years from now is a $5 million project or a $4.5 million project, which it could very easily be.
Absolutely.
That if we put that on the backs of the tenants, the rates will just skyrocket. No matter how good the interest rate is. We have 320 some odd people in the marina. Is that what it is, Chris? 320 some odd boats?
Yeah.
That's an awful lot to put on the backs of the marina tenants. And we need to find a way to get that funded some other way.
Yep. And we'll be talking to council about that. I almost feel like, and I told Ken this, and I don't want to upset you, Blaine, but we have to really ask the city right now, do they want to be in the marina business? That's kind of what we're coming to at this point. And if the answer is yes, okay, let's roll up our sleeves and work together, and we know we're going to need some money. And if the answer is no, Ken and I were talking, and I told Ken this, I said, then that's okay too. We'll just continue on for the next 5 or 10 years until we can any longer, But really, that is something that I feel like I have to ask the council at some point. Do you want to be in the marina business? Our marina is nearly 50 years old, Things wear out,
Well said, Chris, well said.
So you asked about a goal issue or what target. I would probably set a target of 50-50 with grant money and the marina coming up at half of it, and then with the enterprise fund, and then grants and the city helping on the other. I think that's a good goal. I think 50-50 would probably put it, that'd be 2.5, what you did last time. and probably keep it in the range. That would be the goal that I would recommend, is you'll go halfway with the enterprise fund and you ask for public funds to help subsidize the rest of it.
I would disagree with that, Blaine, respectfully. My opinion is if the city wants to be in the marina business, you know, we need to find a way through public funds to allow the city to have that marine park. And I, you know, I see people nodding their heads, and I think, you know, asking for 50-50 would not be, that might be a settling position, but it wouldn't be my asking position. You know, I mean, realistically, you know, you have to, you can't get what you don't ask for. And I think our position as a group needs to be that we need to find public funds as a committee. We need to be able to stand up and say we need to be able to find public funds to do the subsequent round of dredging. That would be my recommendation to our esteemed chairman, Ken Hewlett.
I think
Well,
that,
I agree with that too. You certainly don't get what you don't ask for. And if we could somehow find a way, like you say, Chris, are you in the marina business or not? And if they are, sweet, take care of the dredging. And then all this other money that we're doing can go towards, because like you say, we have a 50-year-old marina. And if the marina tenants don't have to worry about a big chunk of that going towards dredging, it could go towards projects that'll make the marina better. The tenants will like it. They'll be more satisfied with the marina and the way that their money is being spent. I think, not that they'll be upset about dredging, but like, it's not for a lot of boats other than sailboats, and some of the bigger power boats, these little crabbers and stuff go in and out. They only need about 2 feet of water, so they'll be able to do that for a long time.
yeah, dredging is certainly not a very sexy
that makes-
upgrade, that's for sure. You know, so, but it's needed, so.
But I mean, spending the money on like a new walkway, is that main walkway that comes down. They see that, and the city sees that, and the people that come out to the hydroplane races and to the youth sailing and all this other stuff, you know, and like you say, if it's a park, maybe we can do more. I hear there's a lot of people in town that would like to take boating classes or know how to sail, but they just don't know how to do it. And if it was offered through the city, you know, as opposed to, I don't know, well, they got the power squadron, you know, maybe we could offer something like that, and if it was funded by the parks, because you'd have the budget for it.
You know, I think these are all really great suggestions, and I really think that we need to have a workshop meeting with the Marine Advisory Committee to pull these ideas out of the box, an in-person workshop type meeting. And then I think we need to sit down with the city council and have a workshop meeting just essentially on the marina to share what we find, you know, our ideas with them, and, you know, share that with them. I think that would be a regular approach. And moving forward, we need to figure out what we're going to do with this dredge fee. And if the committee would like, at the next meeting, you know, I can write up an agenda bill for this meeting that would ask for a recommendation. So that'll give us a little more time to think about it, and then that sort of thing. And I can break it out what it looks like with just a dredge fee plus a 3% increase that we show here as well. So I'd be more than happy to do that for the next meeting. And then we can address the other part of that, the scheduled rate increase that's scheduled in April as well. So we kind of have really big parts here.
Yeah, when you mentioned a workshop type meeting, that also would fall under the Public Meetings Act and so forth. So how do you see that coming about?
Would that be a public meeting, Blaine? Just a workshop to go over marine idea? Maybe it's something we do at the yacht club upstairs, and we get out the whiteboard, and anybody that wants to come can.
Yeah, right now you have to have an electronic component with any meeting. And if you have 3 members, you have a quorum, and it has to be subject to public records.
Well, maybe we can do it in City Hall.
Yeah, so, but you have to do yeah, you can, but you just have to do it at a place where you can stream it. Because that's the complication we have with remote meetings now, is you have to have that electronic component so people can attend. And we've had the press here, I don't see them today, but
No.
electronically, they're more apt to attend, and they've attended in the past on our meetings. And so,
Well, we can work those details out, but if that would interest the committee, we can figure something out, right?
Yeah, I think the idea of some sort of a workshop meeting appeals to me, because I think to a certain extent, well, some of you know my ideas already, but to a certain extent, when we start talking about the future of the marina, we go from, as far as I'm concerned, we go from a discussion about maintenance to a discussion about redevelopment and reconfiguring the marina so that we're, that we have the proper mix of slips for the market, what the market's demanding now, which is more bigger slips and, larger draft vessels and all that kind of stuff. Because as soon as we start touching a major reconfiguration or even major dredging, I can see the handwriting on the wall that, all of a sudden, all of our creosote timbers are going to be an issue, and we're going to have to remove those, and, on down the line. And then there's always mitigation that you have to do. And, I think it's going to be many multiples of $4.5 or $5 million. It's going to be a much bigger number. But, and then that only ends up with us having a spruced up configuration like we have. And if we don't take the opportunity to look at a complete redevelopment, then we're just, we're kidding ourselves as far as this issue of, gee, do we want to be in the marina business? Do we want to have a workable facility where boats can come and go at a wide range of tides? And, we know we're disadvantaged as far as what our location is, but, it was a cheap place to be back in the day, and we already had a launch ramp. So, that appealed a great deal to the Dutch fathers of this community.
Right.
I think that perhaps a little broader perspective for that workshop would be something about really revisioning the future of the marina.
Well, so I have a question, Chris. Maybe I missed it, or I'm behind somehow. But you were talking about, hey, do we want to be in the marina business? I think there's certainly appetite for it. How is the purchase of Mariners have, like, that conversation wouldn't have happened if the city wasn't interested in having a marina.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So the purchase of Mariners Haven is kind of at a standstill right now. We're going to be working with our new legal team to draft up some documents and go from there.
Right. But what I'm saying is, if the city itself had no appetite to be in the marina business, that conversation wouldn't have happened in the first place. But I mean, like, you would have went to them and said, yeah, we want to buy that. And they would have said, not really into the marina thing. So, but changed it, right? Whether it's standstill or whether it's going, I think there's the city's appetite to have a marina. And I think if you pose that question to them, I think they would most likely fall on, yeah, we want to have a marina.
Well, that's certainly my hope, no doubt about it. And then it's okay, let's get to work and figure this out. And so definitely.
All these issues always come down to whose pocket the money is going to come out of. And, that's where the challenge is going to be. I think it was Everett Dirksen that famously said, gee, there's no end to the good you can do with someone else's money. Yeah. And that seems to be the mentality, and we've done some visioning in the past over the years about, if we had this or that or whatever. And then we got into a situation where we couldn't even realistically figure out how to repair and economically to repair the hoist and so forth. And we had a number of grant requests outstanding to do some minor reconfiguration of the slips, primarily on D-dock,
Yeah.
and also re-slope the launch ramp and do a few other things. And the only things that came out of that were the things that the beach enhancement people wanted. You know, those were the things that came out high on the list. And, you know, I'm not trying to be flippant about this or anything, because everybody's got their own priorities and so forth. But it's an uphill battle. So we need to make sure that we're very strategically dealing with entities that have the capacity of supporting something significant over a long period of time. And whether that or not that's within the city or county or state and federal level, you know, it's probably going to take a combination of a lot of those things to get something done.
Yeah.
Um,
We have to wait and see.
anyway, that's my soapbox for the night.
So if there's no objections, then I'll write the agenda next month for a recommendation on these stepped increases. And Dave, these numbers that you gave us, these are, we base those on the 32 feet, but I think you told me they're good all the way across, right?
Yes, they're good all the way across. I have a calculator I built too, where you just type in a number and.
Okay, all right. Then I'll use these numbers as well. So if no one has objections, we'll do that. And then I'll also find out about a workshop. We'll just go from there and see what we can do.
Yeah, we can, you know, if we have to have a video link or something, we can always accommodate that. So.
Yeah, we can do it in the council chambers, maybe bring Tim in.
If everyone's tired of this particular topic and swirling around with ideas in our heads, how about our general marina update? Chris, do you have something on that?
Just wrapping up the big projects, the Wi-Fi's, the cameras, the log boom, and the fish pens, which is, you know, those are pretty hefty projects for a small crew like we have. And hopefully we'll get a lot of those wrapped up this month. And we're keeping our seasonal Nikon till the end of the year. So that'll be an extra set of hands for us. And I think I shared with you that Neil's decided to retire on January 31st. So
Yeah.
looking for a bit longer. But other than that, the marina keeps turning, and we're excited for Canada Open. We're wondering if we're actually going to have a winter cruising season. That's the big mystery out there right now. But we'll see. We hope so.
Yeah. Chris, you mentioned the log boom. Are you talking about just in the area around the harbor master shack, or also out by the launch ramp?
In both areas, we're still doing some fine tuning and adjustments, trying to keep it from hitting the ground. So we're trying to find that happy medium. It's really an ingenious design. Duncan came up with that, and it was a great idea. We just got to fine tune it a little bit.
And part of the report at the city workshop had to do with our various insurance claims and the repairs on FDOC. And do we have a firm start date now?
Yes. So it's gone through the city council process. We've hired a contractor. The contractor is American Construction. They're as firm as a construction company can be, going to be here around January 1st. They'll work through January and February. They'll repair the breakwater. They'll replace the FDOC pile hoops, and they'll replace the broken pile out there on the south entrance. The pile there that held the red light, I don't know if you've noticed, we've kind of improvised out there, got hit by a boat and broke. So
was that a wooden pile?
That was a wooden pile, and I just saw the plans for the new pile, and it's a roughly 12.75 diameter pile, steel pile, 1/2 inch thick with a solar light on top of it. If I was reading the plans correctly, it's going to go down 45 feet into the mud line. I was like, wow, that's a lot. So, and stick up 20 feet.
I was asked the other day by someone that was thinking ahead about, they were talking about global warming, and I was going to suggest that we could certainly use that. That would solve some of our dredging.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling that that's not going to happen in a scope of time that it's going to benefit the marina.
No.
But the real issue that this person brought up was the height of our pilings and the possibility of overtopping the pilings at high tides.
Yeah.
And that is a real issue, and not just here, I mean, everywhere.
Everywhere. Absolutely. Absolutely. Sometimes during the super high tides, I just hope there's not a big surge coming out of the west, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So again, that's one of those things perhaps we'll discuss during the workshop. Are there new, by the way, just kind of a housekeeping thing, are there new codes for the restrooms and the dumpsters and so forth?
Yeah, it's 32281 for the restrooms and 1981 for the dumpsters. We're going to be changing that code on the restrooms here next month, probably.
Oh, okay. Well, did I miss it? Did the 1981 part of it, did that go out in something to the tenants?
Yeah, we put signage up around the marina, stop by and get it.
Okay,
We don't like to send out an email that way because then people forward it on, but we'll put out a come see us. We send it out to the liveaboards, I believe. We typically do that, but not to the general marina people.
okay.
Yep.
Well,
And then your gate cards work on the restrooms too.
Yeah, you can use the physical card, or in the upper area there's a 5-digit number. You hit that 5-digit number on the keypad and hit pound. But the best thing to do is just use your key card. That works better.
yeah. Okay, anything else, housekeeping stuff? Any other questions of the committee? Okay, how about the advisory committee comments? Anyone have any additional comments?
I had a couple of thoughts here. Thing about the beach enhancement people. It's my opinion that the beach enhancement and dredging are absolutely opposite of each other. If we dig it out and then we put new stuff above it, it's just going to aggravate the problem, and we have to fix it again sooner.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
And another thing that popped through my mind about the docks floating off the top, I don't know if it's true. Someone once told me they had a new harbor master at Skyline who wanted to even up the pilings and didn't take into account high tide.
Bad
I don't know if
idea.
it's true.
It's a bad idea.
That's like sawing off the limb you're sitting on.
There are some things you just don't really mess with in a marina, and pile are some of them heights.
Yeah, yeah.
That's funny.
Okay, any other committee comments?
No, this is just kind of goes along with Chris. They replaced that piling out at the entrance. So I'm all the way out here at the end, and I see how many boats hit that piling. It'll be interesting when it's made out of steel. I may more clangs than I think.
Yeah.
5 feet deep. I bet they move it then, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, is there an option to move it outboard a little bit more, or to the south a little bit more?
No, because it's on all the Coast Guard charts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what I was thinking of was some common sense way to make it a little less prone to impact. But
yeah.
I don't understand how they hit it as it is. I mean, it's not in the way, but it's just people not. They're coming.
You know what I see a lot is the minute people come in through there, they immediately have to get their lines and their fenders ready and all that, versus going through there into the wide opening and slowing down and doing it all right there. It has to happen right there for some reason.
Yeah, unfortunately, common sense isn't all that common. So.
Not voting.
Yeah, I was thinking it's
I mean,
common sense, federal government at the same time.
And float around in here and try to get everything ready.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ryan, you and David were talking on top of each other a little bit. You want to rephrase that, or?
Oh, go ahead, David.
I was going to make a dumb joke, but it's good.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, no. All I was saying was that that I watched these boats come in, and they come in like a bat out of hell, right up to that
Yeah.
entrance, then that's when they decide it's time to get their lines and fenders out as they're floating around inside the marina. It's kind of it's entertaining to watch. Where if they would just make the turn out there and start getting things set up, it would be a whole lot better.
Yeah. Chris, when they're in doing that piling, are they gonna pull the one off the gas stop?
No.
Too bad.
Yeah. This piling is paid for through Merkel Insurance, the engineering, the driving, the pile, all that junk. So,
One step forward, one step back, huh?
yeah, that's it.
Okay, any other comment? I'm not hearing any other comments. Our next meeting would be the 6th of December.
Yes.
And if there's any other business, now would be a good time to say so. Otherwise, we're going to adjourn. And again, happy birthday to Chris.
Well, thank you, guys. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Appreciate it.
Happy birthday.
Bye.
Good night.
All right, good night, Chris.
Good night. Didn't mean to put you on the spot with that question, but I think that is an important question we have to ask the city council.
I'm not opposed to it, and I'm not opposed to asking for more than the 50 I put out there. So it's not a bad idea to start higher. So, all right, I'll take care.
All right.
Go
Good
eat
night.
the cake, hopefully.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave.